Hello and welcome to Newsround. I am Will Ibong. A recap of stories that made the headlines during the week. Plateau in agony as Tinubu visits. Vows sweeps justice for victims of Anguwan Rukuba attack. In the spirit of Easter, Nigerians join global Christians in observance of Good Friday. And PDP concludes Abuja convention emerges with new national executives to steer the party forward. Deadly earthquake in Indonesia leaves at least one person killed, triggers a tsunami alert across the Pacific. And that's Newsround in View. Now, Newsround begins on a somber note as the March 29, 2026 attack on residents of Anguwan Rukuba in Jos, Plateau State marks the latest in a long history of violence in the region. And this report traces the timeline of the crisis, which has plagued the state since 1994, highlighting recurring clashes largely driven by ethno-religious tensions.
Plateau State is known as the home of peace and tourism, but the serenity and beauty appear to be fading as the state witnesses unending crises leading to bloodshed and loss of innocent lives. The crisis rocking the state is a long-standing, recurring conflict which dates back to 1994. It involves ethnic, religious, and resource-based clashes between indigenous groups and settlers, resulting in deaths. The most prominent crises occurred in 2001, 2004, 2008, 2010, and most recently, intensive attacks in 2023 and 2024, particularly in Barkin Ladi, Bokos, and Mangu. April 1994, early ethnic violence erupted in Jos following a controversial political appointment. 1995, violence broke out between Mangu and Bokos communities over boundary disputes. Many houses and property were lost to the crisis. September 2001, large-scale sectarian crisis in Jos, leaving over 1,000 people dead and the imposition of a 72-hour curfew. May 2004, there was a local government area crisis continued in 2004 and about 700 deaths were recorded. This time it did not stop in Shandam. The crisis spread to Lantang North and Lantang South local government areas. November 2008, over 700 people were reportedly killed in clashes following local government elections in Jos. March 2010, a dispute between Christians and Muslims in the Nasarawa Guam area of Jos North, which later escalated to Jos South local government area, resulted in the death of over 400 people. 2011, the post-election violence led to loss of lives. 2016, there were clashes between farmers and herders in February, July, and September in some parts of the states. Lives and property were lost during the conflicts. September 2017, a clash broke out between the Hausa and Igbo communities. This was followed by a clash between farmers and herders in Riom local government area. March 2020, a conflict between farmers and herders resurged in Riom local government area and lingered through the year. 2021, a series of crises unsettled the state. They include attacks and reprisal among herders and the indigenous people in Basa local government area, as well as the recurrent clashes between Birong, other local tribes, and Fulanis in Barkin Ladi, Jos North, and Riom local government areas. 2022, at least 58 people were killed between January and June in 7 violent attacks and counterattacks between farmers and herders in Basa, Jos North, and Shandam local government areas. 2023, over 400 people were killed in violent attacks and reprisals in Barkin Ladi, Bokos, and Mangu local government areas. Between 2024 to 2025, pockets of attacks in Mangu and surrounding areas, resulting in significant displacement in over 420 communities. March 2026, late-night attack at Angwan Rukuba, which reportedly claimed over 20 lives. The key drivers of the violence are tension between indigenes and settlers, land ownership and grazing rights, as well as ethno-religious factors.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu visited Plateau State on Thursday to commiserate with families affected by the recent deadly attacks in Jos, where more than 29 people were killed and several others injured. The visit comes amid renewed calls for lasting peace in a region that has endured decades of recurring violence and instability.
At about 4:50 p.m., the presidential aircraft touched down, marking a solemn visit driven by tragedy.
Very revered traditional rulers, families.
The attack, which occurred on Sunday, left dozens dead and many others injured, reigniting concerns over persistent insecurity in Plateau State. In his address, President Bola Tinubu expressed deep sorrow and assured residents that such violence must not be allowed to continue.
And to you leaders, I've heard this. To the victim, there is nothing I can give you, whether money in millions, but console you and promise you that this experience will not repeat itself.
The president directed security agencies to ensure those responsible are brought to justice and announced plans to deploy surveillance technology to strengthen security.
I thank the men and women of the armed forces, particularly the police, for what they are doing and what they are about to do. You must unearth and find the killers. We are going to install immediately a network of cameras that will help the law enforcement agencies to identify the troublemakers instantly.
During the visit, Governor Caleb Mutfwang introduced grieving families to the president, describing the incident as a setback to the state's peace-building efforts.
Since this event, apart from briefing you, I've also convened a Security Council meeting where we took some very far-reaching decisions that we think, in addition to the support that we are going to get from the armed forces and the Inspector General of Police, that by God's grace, we will win this war against insurgency.
Political leaders at the meeting emphasized unity as the key to ending the crisis.
That were affected by various unfortunate incidences in Plateau State.
The national chairman of the APC, Professor Nantawe Yilwada, also stressed the need for stronger collaboration between communities and security agencies to end the recurring violence.
We are looking forward that this your visit will strengthen the security agencies and also strengthen the relationship between the community and the security agencies to ensure that we stemmed this tide of attack in our communities. Your Excellency, we have the surest assurances from you that this visit will ensure that the security improves, our people are safer, and that even the people who have lost their loved ones will get more comforted.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Governor, thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.
As Plateau grapples with yet another tragic episode, expectations remain high that this high-level intervention will translate into concrete actions to restore lasting peace in the state. Percy Dabang, Channels Television News.
And in the spirit of Easter, President Bola Tinubu is urging Nigerians to remain steadfast and supportive of ongoing reforms, emphasizing that the true national transformation requires shared sacrifice. In a message to Nigerians home and abroad, he highlighted the season's themes of sacrifice and resilience, noting their relevance to the nation's current challenges while assuring continued efforts to tackle insecurity and strengthen the economy. Now, with the Easter celebration now a day away, the Friday travel rush was in full swing at the domestic wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos, with heightened activity across the terminal. From departure lounges to boarding gates, a surge of travelers is moving through the airport, all eager to reunite with family and loved ones for the holiday celebrations.
At Murtala Mohammed Airport Terminal 2 in Ikeja, Lagos, travelers are seen bustling through the airport, eager to catch flights to various destinations for the holiday. The airport is alive with the excitement of holiday reunions as passengers prepare to celebrate Easter with loved ones, reflecting the seasonal travel surge across Nigeria. Despite the economic headwinds buffeting Nigeria's aviation sector, the Easter spirit has provided a much-needed lift. The terminal floors at MMA2 are finally feeling the weight of a holiday crowd. We caught up with travelers navigating the cost of connection to see if the festive rush lives up to the hype.
When I got to the airport, actually the traffic gives me an impression that people are really traveling for the holiday. Because today being a holiday, I was expecting the traffic to be lesser. So when we got here, it took us a little bit of hustle to find a spot to get out of the vehicle. And then coming in here, the line is long.
Myself, I do not travel so frequently, but at least 4 to 6 times in a year, locally. And today, I can see that there's a very massive turnout on the people that are traveling for Easter celebrations.
It is a choice between the open road and the open sky, and for many at MMA2 today, the tarmac is winning. Despite the heavy lifting required for airfares lately, travelers are opting for altitude over asphalt. For these holiday makers, paying a premium isn't just about luxury, it's about buying back time for what matters most, family.
The road transportation right now is it's risky. So it's either you spend money or you lose your life. So it's better to spend the money, you understand? It's not like all of them here are rich. I'm not rich myself, but I would rather spend that money than, be killed on the road.
Sometimes it makes you wonder, is anything bad really going on in the country? But it shows how Nigerians have the spirit of resilience, how they can also say, you know what, it's not all that rosy, but we can find a sweet spot to celebrate and then come back to what is, really present and deal with that later on.
Market fluctuations and airline hurdles have influenced passenger numbers, but the recent turnout suggests that projections by the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority for growth in the aviation sector remain achievable. As Nigerians journey to reunite with loved ones and observe the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the holiday period offers a chance for reflection and hope for a brighter future.
Still ahead on Newsround, National Assembly approves President Bola Tinubu's request to increase 2026 budget from 58.4 trillion to 63.8 trillion naira. Don't go away. Welcome back. Now, on Monday, the People's Democratic Party, with backing from FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, held its national convention on March the 29th in Abuja, where a new National Working Committee was elected. The exercise, held despite internal divisions and legal challenges, signaled a significant leadership shift as the party positions itself ahead of the 2027 general elections.
The velodrome of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, is charged as over 2,000 delegates gather for what party leaders describe as a convention of inclusiveness, unity, and renewal. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, arrived to a grand welcome, asserting his influence as a central figure in the convention. Beyond the election of new national officers for the PDP, key party leaders take to the podium preaching unity, reconciliation, and inclusivity.
This moment is not merely procedural. It is profoundly democratic and historically symbolic. It represents renewal. It represents rebirth. And it represents a reaffirmation of our shared commitment to the founding ideals of justice, equity, national cohesion, and a people-oriented organization. It calls on us to close ranks, rebuild trust, and reposition our party as the foremost platform for democratic governance in Nigeria.
I appeal to you again. It is not about interest. It's not about our individual objective. It is the collective responsibility of this great party to this great country. Let's put hands together and make sure that we forge ahead as one family.
We've introduced tribal politics, religion, ethnicity, and division. And there is no way a country can grow. There is no way it can take a place in the whole nation if we are not united as Nigeria as a minimum benchmark in terms of political leadership.
The PDP has lost much of its political influence, as prominent members, including governors, defect to other political parties due to the lingering leadership crisis, which has caused a major rift among party leaders. However, the FCT minister in his remarks dismisses any rivalry, promising an outstanding performance for the PDP in the 2027 general elections.
You have in the process put to shame the cynics who never believed our party would rise again. Together, we are standing on the positive side of history with renewed energy, vision, and purpose, more united and committed to the task of making Nigeria a truly prosperous country. We shall rebuild our party in such a way that will meet the yearnings and aspirations of the generality of Nigerians.
With the speeches over, the convention moved to the main business of the day, which is the election of national principal officers for the party.
This list is a product of organic consensus.
21 aspirants emerged through consensus for the various national offices, and they are elected through voice vote.
The motion having been moved and seconded, I now put the question. Those in support and agreement of the two motions as moved by Abamuru and seconded, say aye. Those against, say nay. They are not here. So the motion is approved. Thank you very much.
The newly elected national chairman of the PDP speaks on behalf of all elected officials, promising renewal and inclusiveness.
Distinguished delegates, today sent a powerful message that the People's Democratic Party is capable of rising above difference, of choosing consensus over conflict, and of placing the collective good above individual ambition.
The PDP has walked a thorny path since 2015, with the most recent experience which continues to threaten its existence, as the rift between the Wike-backed PDP and the Tinubu Turaki-led group continue to seek validation of their leadership at the Supreme Court, after the appeal court nullified the Ibadan Convention, which produced the Turaki-led National Working Committee of the PDP.
Now on Tuesday, the National Assembly approved President Bola Tinubu's request to increase the 2026 budget by 9 trillion naira, raising it from 58.4 trillion naira to 63.8 trillion. The request, conveyed in a letter to both chambers, is aimed at strengthening fiscal transparency and ensuring effective implementation of priority national projects across key sectors.
A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation the total sum of 68 trillion 323 billion 309 million 818,667 naira only, of which 4 trillion 799 billion 628,911,860 naira only is for statutory transfers, whereas 15 trillion 809 billion 861 million 631,657 naira only is for debt servicing, while 15 trillion 427 billion 257 million 802,407 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 32 trillion 287 billion 61 million 472,797 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2026. Bill read for the third time and passed.
Now, away from the budget, on Friday, residents of Jikoi, a satellite town in the Federal Capital Territory, were jolted by the collapse of a two-story hotel building under construction, leaving 7 people injured. The FCT Emergency Management Department later assured that rescue operations were deployed to ensure no one remains trapped, while those injured were currently receiving treatment at a nearby private hospital.
This is what is left of a hotel that is under construction in the Jikoi area of the nation's capital. According to the FCT Emergency Management Department, 17 workers had reported for duty when the building came down in the early hours of the day.
It's today that this thing happened when we are up there. I came down to go and buy what I'll go eat before I will start work, before we'll continue with the work, understand? And due to when I was passing to go upstairs, there was one guy that's lying on that day.
That is exactly what I was saying.
Search and rescue workers arrived at the scene to evacuate victims. They include operatives from the FCT Emergency Management Department, the National Emergency Management Agency, Federal Capital Development Authority, the Civil Defense, the Federal Fire Service, and the FCT Police Command.
My office was alerted barely 2 hours ago in respect of the collapse of the structure, as you can see. And one responsibility as NEMA is to coordinate all the resources needed to manage the disaster situation, including involving all the critical stakeholders that have a role to play, mobilize the resources needed to rescue people who must have been affected by this particular disaster situation. In this case, our building collapse.
Eyewitnesses narrate the incident.
And actually, it takes everybody unaware and surprised for this thing that happened. We were having about 4 Mercy working with their helpers about let me say we were expecting about 12 to 15 people were up there working. 5 people were rushed to the hospital.
1 has been discharged. 4 are still in the hospital right now. Other people that did not sustain injury will be able to go. And we are suspecting because there was a guy that was lying down at the downstairs. So when that thing happened, so we don't know whether before the thing happened he has left or he has not left. So that is the question now, because the boy, we don't know him. And none of us can be able to say this is where he come from or this is what he was even about to do, because he was just lying down trying to watch 1 or 2 things before the building collapsed.
The cause of the collapse is yet to be ascertained. However, eyewitnesses blame the incident on poor quality of materials used for the building.
A news round ends in Indonesia, where at least 1 person has been killed after a powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the Molucca Sea near Ternate early on Thursday, triggering brief tsunami warnings across parts of the Pacific. The quake, followed by aftershocks of 5.5 and 5.2 magnitude, caused widespread concern, with authorities warning of possible further tremors. Meanwhile, in a separate incident on that same Thursday, at least 12 people were injured after a gas explosion ripped through a fuel station in Bekasi Regency, where firefighters battled flames at the Simunin LPG facility amid reports of a suspected gas leak now under investigation. And that's a wrap on News Round. I am Will Ibang. Thanks for watching.